Good morning there, everybody. Today, if I have enough battery life in my phone, we are going to show you how to properly winterize a motorcycle. I know this has been beaten to death, but I hear a lot of people say some strange things. First of all, you want to put fresh oil in the bike if the oil is old, and you want to use the proper oil. I am running this oil in the Suzuki 1040 real oil, non-synthetic, because that's what this bike runs. If I put synthetic in there, the gaskets might start leaking. I run non-synthetic in that sweet ass ride over there because that's what it's had in its stock original motor that it still has all its life. Little thing to know there, right? Okay. If you have, let's say, I don't know, under 1,000 miles, you still got semi-fresh oil, you're fine. You don't have to worry about it. But I'm changing the oil. I just changed the oil on this bike. You can put some Marvel's Mystery Oil or something in it if you wish, but there's really no need to do that. As you can see, this is a bobber, still has the stock center stand, and that wheel's way up in the air. The big thing you want to do is treat the gasoline. Ideally, you would put the additive in the gasoline, ride the bike home if you live somewhere in town that has, gas you can use, but I don't. So I've got this sucker right here, full of 91 non-oxygenated gasoline, 91 octane, right? If you can find it, you want to use non-oxygenated gasoline. That means there is not ethanol in it. Ethanol attracts moisture, and if you can help it, you don't want to have ethanol in your gas, storing it over the winter. It just so happens that 91 octane you can get without ethanol in it in this state, and so that's what I'm putting in everything. Besides, that sport bike over there runs it anyway all the time. So even if your bike doesn't need 91, and that's the only octane you can get it non-oxygenated, which means ethanol-free, just use that. Now, the fuel treatment. You don't want to put this in there with a full tank, like half a tank empty, preferably. On the motorcycles, we tend to use Startron on the motorcycles. I've got another bottle of it over there. It just works a little bit better than Stable, but it is very expensive. And motorcycles are a little more pissy come springtime about their fuel than cars are. Cars, trucks, boats, well, you want to use the marine version probably for boats, but the Stable, right here, which I got another full one over there too, which is in the Mustang, is what I have in the Mustang. Come springtime, I like to use this Lucas upper cylinder lubricant, injector cleaners, fuel conditioners. Lucas oil, this is one of the best fuel cleaning things I have ever bought. It's the only fuel additive that I've ever used that actually works. You don't have to do this, but when I fire the bikes up in the springtime and ride them, I like to put a little bit of this in the gas. Just helps clean, the crap out. If I don't do it, I have to use it in this bike, otherwise the floats will leak. I just have to do it. And another thing, you might want to lube your chain if you have one, if it's even anywhere near needed to be lubed, because if it's going to sit all winter, you don't want your chain to rust. You can either generally use chain wax, which is a spray. It's like a clear spray that I use on the sport bike because, sport bikes, if you use this PJ1 on it, it's going to throw oil all over your tail light. The PJ1 Blue Label stuff is good stuff. It's used, people use them on Harleys a lot. It says, clear, won't fly off. That's a lie. That is a lie. It will fly off. A little bit. It just does. It's not horrible compared to some of the cheaper lubes, but it will fly off. But PJ1 Blue Label chain lube, if you want a real chain lube, you don't want to use chain wax for some reason. That's what I would recommend. And then chain wax, I don't know what brand name this is. Was it Bel Ray or Maxima? I'd have good luck with that too. It's just what all the local dealers sell. On this bike, I'm going to have to warm it up. It hasn't been started in a long time. And while it's warming up, I'm going to put it in gear and let this tire spin, and then I'm just going to lube the chain while it's warming up. That's not going to be on video, however, because, oops, this bike is going to be a bitch to start. I just had to charge the battery up, right? It says 1 ounce treats 3 gallons. There's about 2 ounces in there. This is about a 3-gallon tank, so we're going to put about half of what's in there. You know what? This says refill 6 ounces. I'm just going to top this off. I'll use that fresh one on the Suzuki. I mean, on the other 2 bikes. I don't want to have that little bit laying around, and it's that little bit extra is not going to make a difference. It's not going to hurt anything. And where's my funnel? There we go. Now, since I can't ride this down to the gas station, we're going to top this off. And I have about half a tank in there right now. And the reason you want to put the additive in first, you don't want to fill the bike up and add the additive, is because it won't mix well. You want to, preferably almost empty, put the additive in, then add the gasoline, because when the gas flows into the tank, it'll mix in. But I'm going to do this. I'm going to top this off, get this bike warmed up, and then we'll be back in a second. Okay, now that the bike's running and idling on its own where it's not going to stall and die, that's important. If you have to bump the idle up just a little to keep that from happening for some reason, then do it. But this motorcycle has carburetors on it. On a fuel-injected bike, you can't do this. Fuel-injected bike, you just run it for a little bit with the treated gas until you know it's going to be through the system, and you shut it off. With a carbureted motorcycle, like with this Harley or the Suzuki, once it's idling on its own, and assuming you can do this, you shut the gas off. And you run the floats dry. You basically just wait for it to run out of gas and die, and then you shut it off and you're good. I got a clear filter. I don't know if you can see that or not. There's still fuel in the line a little bit. That might have something to do with it. It's got to see. It's not only got to drain the float bowls out. It has to drain the line going to the carburetors out too. She's starting to lean out. There we go. Shut her off. Lock the front end. Although the key doesn't do anything on this bike anymore. I want to lock the front end so it doesn't get bumped around. I got a block in front of it. Here we go. Now we just got to take the battery out, put the cover back on, and this bike's done. The thing about the batteries, if you have a battery tender, or like a minder, or whatever you want to call it, you do not want to put a battery charger on it. This bike has a pigtail for a battery tender minder, you know, but this garage doesn't have electricity to it, so I'm going to actually have to take the battery out of this bike this winter. If you have one of those where it doesn't charge it, it just keeps it from going dead and freezing, especially if you're in an unheated garage. If you're in a heated garage, you still want to put a minder or something on it. But if you can't do that, you want to remove the battery, put it someplace above freezing. Do not sit batteries on concrete. And I've still got the ramps from the car because I just winterized that. Because I don't know what it is about concrete, but it will drain a battery. It's strange. I haven't looked up the science behind it, but it is true. If you had to put it on concrete, put a board down or something, and then sit the battery on that. My batteries for everything are going to go in my basement kitchen counter, so we don't use that kitchen. You don't want to leave the battery in it unattended like it is right now. Also, it doesn't really matter. This motorcycle is going to be sitting on its tires all winter. The Kawasaki is not. I'm going to be putting it on the triple tree stand and the rear stand. I'm going to line them all up straight, like at a 90-degree angle to the wall, up against the wall, and so I can get a snowblower right here. But I'm going to have that in the air, and I'm going to leave this motorcycle on its center stand, like this, up in the air where it's sitting. You don't have to worry about it with harder tires like this so much, but with sport bike tires, they're soft. It's something I like to do. A lot of people will recommend it, parking them, like maybe on, if you can't raise it up, park it on carpet patches or something like of that matter. It's debatable. You can ask around or look into it. Some people swear by it. Some people say it doesn't matter. If you're the type of guy that only has one motorcycle and you ride a sport bike and you go through tires every couple of years, it ain't going to matter, really. But if I can get them in the air, a wheel weight off a tire, I do. If I can't, I can. I don't worry about it. Because you will lose a little pressure over the winter, and it's just one of those debatable things. Depends on who you ask, but I'm going to bring it up just for the hell of it. Another reason I do that is this bike is a lot more stable sitting here like this, and that bike on its stands than it will be just sitting on the side stand. I won't have to worry about bumping it and tipping it over. Working on something this winter, and the Harley's so damn heavy, you ain't tipping this over on accident, no matter what. And I think pretty much, and yeah, I did spill a little gas. It's going to evaporate. If you ever get gas on your gas tank, doing this or at the gas station, don't wipe it off wet. Let it completely dry. Then use some cleaner or something after, wipe it dry. Because if you wipe it wet, gas is like a varnish. Not a varnish, like a paint thinner, really. It'll screw your paint up. Let it dry before wiping it off. You get gas on, you see all that gas on your fancy paint at the gas station? Don't panic and get a rag and start wiping on it. You're going to ruin your paint. Let it dry, then clean it. So the only thing I can really think of is the exhaust. This bike, I don't have to worry about it. It's got these little caps, right? It depends on where you live. I've never had a problem with it. I've never done this before. This is the first year that you can see the rag sitting out of the muffler on the Mustang. I got them in the tailpipes. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to put them one in this tailpipe once I winterize this, and I'm going to put some in the tailpipes of this bike. What that does is it deters mice and stuff. Mice might still see the rag and be like, ooh, stuff to make a nest, and they might pull it out, get in there, but it's a deterrent. Mice like to crawl into exhausts and make little nests and live in your mufflers. They just like to do that. Like I said, I've never had a problem with it. If you live on a farm, this is a small town. I don't know if you can see this or not, but that's a picked cornfield back there. We're a block away from a cornfield, so I'm a little more paranoid. If you're storing your stuff in a barn or something, yeah, you probably definitely want to do it. Don't be throwing mothballs or anything down your pipes. Don't do stupid stuff like that. But jam a rag in there that you can pull out if you're worried to help keep mice out. But that's pretty much all there is to it. It's not that complicated. It's the same rules with a car, with anything. The only real difference is, but that tire was spinning, I lubed that chain up. Another reason I like to do it with the spinning is it doesn't drip off the chain. You got a little bit of a mist from it was spinning fast. I just like to do it that way. But the only real difference is like with a fuel-injected motorcycle. You can't run, there's no float bowls to run dry, so you just don't do it. But if you have a carburetor and you can shut off your gas, seat's not bolted up right now, you want to do it. I have a homemade petcock on this bike, and there's a petcock on this bike as well, way down there. A lot of people forget that. They forget to do that. That will help it'll help keep sediment from building up on your float needles and causing your carburetors to leak come springtime. If I did this right and it's not filling back up out of that hose, I don't know if it is or not, but I'm just going to cross my fingers. But it ran till it died. That's what you do. The floats should be all the way down right now, which means the float needle should be out of its seat, which means there's not fuel sitting on there, and sediment from the fuel isn't going to build on the float needles or the seats for the float needles, and you'll just have less problems come springtime. So basically all I'm going to do is, come spring, I'm going to put some of that Lucas oil treatment right here. If you want to check it out for yourself. It's not cheap, but they do make it in much smaller bottles than this for like a couple of bucks. In that tank, and I'm going to go ride it around come springtime. And that should be all it needs. But that's winterizing a motorcycle. Or a car. We used a bike this time. Hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask. People have all kinds of weird, crazy ideas about what to do or what not to do. But I've been doing this on motorcycles for years, and I've never had a problem. This is the proper way to do it. So till then, thanks for watching. Be riding safe out there if you live someplace where you can still ride. I can, but it's freezing. And will see you guys on the next one. Although right now, most of my videos are those older videos I'm using to fill the winter. But you will probably see a video from time to time like this pop up. But till then, y'all guys have a good one.